Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we give no fuck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yucks, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any buck. Life as a chicken whose feathers he plucks. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.
Hi, I'm Adam Heath Avitable.
And I'm Sarah.
This is Dating Kinda Sucks, a podcast about dating, sex, and relationships. This week, we'll be having a conversation about hookup culture with Dr. Aditi Paul. Enjoy the show.
And hey, YouTube, thanks so much for watching. Be sure to subscribe to our channel and like this video for more great content, hopefully.
Hopefully.
I'm kidding.
Guaranteed.
Guaranteed.
Or your money back.
Dr. Paul is a professor and mixed methods researcher based in New York City. She uses her background in technology and relationship science to examine the impact of social media and dating apps on personal relationships. Aditi's research has been published in top academic journals and has been featured in prominent media outlets such as NBC News, The Washington Post, Women's Health, The Telegraph UK, and Business Insider.
Her book, The Current Collegiate Hookup Culture, Dating Apps, Hookup Scripts, and Sexual Outcomes, provides data-driven insights on Gen Z's dating and sexual behaviors, and how dating apps like Tinder and OnlyFans are transforming the culture of sex on campus. Order her book and find out more at draditipaul.com. That's DRADITIPAUL, draditipaul.com. This is our first time actually with someone who we didn't really know or we weren't really familiar with, but she reached out and her book sounded interesting, and so we decided this would be a kind of a fun topic. Hookup culture is, I think, something that everybody always has questions about and everybody always makes assumptions about.
And we have someone on the show who has really great credentials and is actually smart. So it'll be a smart person on the show for once, I guess. Not to shit on ourselves, but I'm just saying.
Right. I mean, someone who has actual credentials versus us, where we're just two
makeshift people. Yeah.
We're just talking out of our asses. But she actually knows what she's talking about. So at least there's some research backed behind what we're going to talk about this episode,
whether we agree with it or not.
That's very true. And I'm also a doctor, I have to point out too. So
what? Oh my God.
Doctor of Jurisprudence. I have my Juris Doctor. That counts. You can call me Dr. Adam Heath Avitable.
I
think maybe we should start doing that from now on. Yes.
Hi, elitist. You're so elitist today. What is happening?
I'm Dr. Adam Heath Avitable, and this is Dating Kinda Sucks.
I threw up in my mouth. Shut the fuck up. Well, anyways,
hopefully you enjoy this episode and learn something.
Hi.
Hey.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm doing so good. Thank you so much for having me on your podcast. I'm very excited.
Thank you for joining us. Do you prefer to be called Dr. Paul or Aditi? What works for you?
It's whatever you prefer. Whatever makes me look less obnoxious. I'm all like that.
Why would you say that?
Dr. Paul. I mean, it's a lot.
Yeah.
But if that helps the audience to, their perception, if it's affected by that, by all means, I prefer either. Both work.
All right. Okay. Well, fantastic. Yeah. Well, let's just kind of dive into it. We really appreciate you joining us, and we're really interested to hear about your book and about just the research you've had. The first question I have for you is, given that you initially studied computer science, mm-hmm. and so what inspired you to take that leap from computer science to then, I know you got your your PhD in communications, but to this topic about hookup culture?
It was a couple of leaps and bounds. I don't know what your college experience has been, but by the second year, I was so done with computer science because it was not inspiring for me, but I didn't have any other option. I got my bachelor's and master's in computer science in India, and back in the day, in 2010, there were not a lot of communication studies programs that were viable there. So I had to move to the US for my love for communication. And during my PhD program, program, there is this thing called Publish and Perish, where you have to produce research. And in this hour of desperation, people do online dating at hours of desperation. I did my research on online dating. So there's this publicly available data set that I crunched the numbers just to get a publication out. And that data set just happened to be online dating. But that one paper went super viral. And the first media hit that I got was from, hold your breath, it was from Playboy. And I still
Wow,
have
that's fantastic.
No
Yeah.
way.
like, first of all, Playboy publishes research. Like, in which universe are we living? But it was such an amazing moment for me because and it spiraled on from there. And like Washington Post picked it up, and then Cosmopolitan picked it up. So that kind of gave me an idea that, oh my gosh, like this area, not only is it interesting, it's vibrant, it has caught the popular culture's attention. And I just went from one question to the other. And one of the questions that came out of that literature from my investigation is this idea of Tinder being a hookup app, or having earned the reputation of a hookup app. And all the things that I was reading about hookup didn't really address that side of the story. So I wanted to link one and two together to see how Tinder was changing this already dominant hookup culture in college campuses. So that's my story.
Did you use Tinder at all while you were researching or in college?
Call myself an ethnographic researcher. Of course I did. I mean, who doesn't? This was like way back, I mean, 2010, when Tinder was just making its entry into college campuses. So yes, I religiously used Tinder.
I was actually just got divorced right around 2010, and that's when Tinder came out, and I was on that. But we get into a lot of I do, Sarah doesn't as much, but I get into a lot of kind of arguments with some of our listeners sometimes who will say, you know, well, Tinder's just a hookup app, and I'll say, actually, the dating apps are whatever you make of them. You know, whatever you decide you want to do. I have a friend who uses Tinder to couch surf when she travels internationally. You know, like so it can be whatever you want. But what did you end up finding, like in a research sense?
So my research, I mean, with any research topic, I mean, there's this analogy that I read where they equated doing a new research as entering a conversation. So the conversation that I was entering was Tinder and hookup culture, etc. And one of the things that previous researchers have found out, that Tinder is wrongfully, and goes back to what Adam you were talking about, that it has gotten a wrongful uh, reputation of being a hookup app where you just log on to the app and then you say DTF and then you get somebody in your room. Like, it doesn't work like that.
Thank you, by the way. Let me just say thank you.
I met my boyfriend on Tinder, my
There
current
you
boyfriend. So,
go.
yeah.
And I have
Yeah.
so many men on TikTok that I get in discussions with who always are like, well, that's what Tinder's for. And I'm always trying to argue them. So now I have a doctor to back me up. So I appreciate that.
Yeah, yeah. The way I think about Tinder has gained the reputation of an app which kind of supports casual sexual encounters. So the way I think of it, because I work in New York City, I think of it as this seedy little bar where, yeah, people think of it a certain way, but then you go in there, and things may turn out very different based on the people you meet at the bar. But the bar, or the location of the bar, has given it a reputation that you really need to fight against. So that is what the previous research showed, that Tinder has wrongfully been called a hookup app, because people don't get into Tinder thinking that I'm going to hook up today. What actually happens is a lot of breadcrumbing happens, a lot of where is this going happens, a lot of situationships happen on Tinder because of lack of exclusivity or lack of commitment. So what happens from that landscape is, if you vibe with a person and if you get together with them, you go for the least viable product, and that least viable product just happens to be sex. That is okay. I'm just gonna get a, for the lack of it, I'm just gonna get a fuck out of it, right? So that's what it turns out, that these casual encounters come from that angle, instead of I am going to go with the sole purpose of finding somebody who I can have a good time with tonight. It's not that.
You get more hurt if you play the long game of being on the apps too, versus just kind of getting your one night and that's it.
Yeah, yeah, and the dissatisfaction with dating apps is just abysmal at this point.
No, I really appreciate your analogy as well, because for many for a long time, I have told people that that's how you should view apps, is view them as going to a bar. A dating app is you at a bar with all of your potential people, all of your potential audience in that bar, and you're essentially kind of just scrolling through them just visually to see if they, at least you have any interest in at least talking to them or not. And
Mm-hmm.
then you can go over and talk to people. And then once you talk to them, you find out that they're a piece of shit or they start
Yeah.
talking about their dick or whatever. Then you're like, okay, nope, swipe left. So like, yeah, that analogy of a dating app as a bar is a fantastic analogy. And do you think that you said that it's a lack of, people just, what did you say that,
Lack of
lack of
commitment.
commitment?
Yeah, lack of commitment and also an abundance of options. It's the buffet of human sexuality and human partnering, where if you, for example, if you meet somebody through a traditional means, so bringing it back to the hookup culture, what I did notice in my finding, despite the popularity of Tinder and other dating apps in college campuses, the number one way which students reported meeting their hookup partners is still through face to face settings, through school settings. So 40% of 318 students said that we met our hookup partners through class, through a student club, through a friend of a friend, all through school settings. And 25%, which is still a huge jump from the data that has been shown before, where people met through dating apps. So I totally lost the track of the train of thought. What did you ask me and why did I go?
We were talking about the commitment and the
There you
actually
go. Oh, yeah,
the
yeah,
amount of
yeah.
options.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you meet somebody through class and if you vibe with this person and then it's going somewhere, but then you hit a roadblock and the relationship is not working out, what are the chances of you finding that desirable of a guy or a girl again in another class? Pretty slim, right? But if you're meeting somebody through an app and you're really not liking the way this person is using their punctuation mark or using lol too many times, like how far is the next swipe? It's right there. And guess what? It's better than the one that you have to deal with right now. So it becomes like, do I really want to invest my time in this thing that's happening, or do I just go for the next one? So it becomes an analogy with like relation shopping, where I don't really like this dress. I tried it on. Do I still like contour my body to fit it, or I'm just gonna chuck it and like go for the next one because there's so many options available.
That's interesting. Interesting. The one thing though is, do you have any? mm, do you think maybe the reason people fall into just sex is because also a lack of communication? Like they don't have the tools maybe to properly communicate with each other what they want. Even if they do want something more serious, they find up in these situationships, et cetera, because they're kind of just nobody's willing to just have the hard talk. Because if you have the hard talk, then one of them might have to walk away.
So, if I'm understanding your question correctly, you're asking me that just because people don't want to talk, they're resorting to sex?
Just because they're not willing to maybe properly communicate what they're looking for on the app, that there are people who are just sometimes, well, at least I'm getting laid, or at least, at least this person's talking to me, so they are resorting to sex or a situationship because they don't have the tools to actually communicate properly, or they're too afraid to communicate properly with the partner.
That does play a very key factor. That is, people are not willing to be vulnerable. And that too, it's somebody you met through an app. It's almost like we know that the app is a serious deal, but just because it's online or it's virtual, there is still this sense of it not being real. So, for example, we're having a really heart to heart discussion, but like me or presuming or assuming or my perception of you as a real person is still somewhere, it's not a 10 out of 10 because I haven't met you in person. So when you're meeting somebody through a dating app, there's still this sense of, is it real? Like, I mean, is it something, is it substantial? So I mean, that can play a factor in not wanting to do a heart to heart with this rando I met online. But if it goes into the territory of multiple conversations that you're having, you're in the talking phase. To make that jump from the talking phase to your exclusive phase really does require somebody to bite the bullet and say, hey, I'm into you. Let's make this official. And for the other person to also match your prerogative or match your priority, well, that's a numbers game. You don't know. I mean, some people, like you said, that you got divorced and you went on Tinder. Your motivation to use Tinder could have been very different than, let's say, if I was on Tinder at that time and looking for the love of my life, and this other person is just probably looking for validation, like, because I mean they went through something
Oh,
really hard in their
yeah,
lives.
post divorce, I went through what I always call it a tramp page, where basically I was just like, let me just get laid as much as possible. That post divorce thing, yeah, absolutely.
There's another scholarly term for that. It's called hotation. I'm kidding.
Oh no.
Hotation, I like that. That's a
It
tramp
is,
page
it
and a
is.
hotation. Very nice.
That's thank you to Issa Rae from Insecure. It is so not me. Anything that's smart that comes out of my mouth, somebody else has said it. So I'm just like regurgitating to you.
Do you have any advice for people who are wanting something serious, of something they should put in their profiles from your research of what you have seen work? Like,
You
is
know
there
the
a certain method or like certain vibe that you need to give off online through apps that would like come to a better outcome if you guys were both wanting something serious?
um I'll be a very Zen and Buddhist in my answer. It all starts and ends with you. Your use of the app or your intentionality or lack thereof is going to predict the experience that you're going to have in this app. It's the same as using money. It's the same as using TikTok. Some people use TikTok to get educated. Some people use TikTok for nonsense. Well, the app is there to keep you there, for you to set an intention and be intentional in your interactions instead of. I've seen so many pictures of like guys sitting on planes and just like doing this, like almost getting on the verge of getting a carpal tunnel. Well, you will meet people like that on the app. But how do you decide if you're going to be jaded? Because the app is designed to make you jaded, let's be honest with that. Like, even if you get super likes or super swipes, or if somebody restricts you to like, you can only swipe on 5 people, well, guess what? You're waiting for the next 24 hours to swipe on the next five. So the app is there to churn or to keep you inside the app and to keep you engaged. So how do you get out of that? It starts and ends with you. You have to set your intention very, very clearly. And we really need to move away from evaluating online dating using traditional dating rules. That is not going to fly, because in traditional dating we didn't meet everybody on the street. We met X number of people and we found Y number of people attractive, and then we went on a date, and so on and so forth. Over here you're meeting X times 10,000 people. It's almost like you walking down the street and saying hi to everybody. Like, are you going to be tired at the end of the day? Yeah. Like, more than your grandparents? Yeah. But that's what you signed up for. So, how are you evaluating something that is so novel with age old rules that, oh, I've said hi to this person. Why don't they say hi to me back? It's not supposed to work like that. So learn the new rules of online dating and set your intentions and understand and acknowledge and accept the fact that these apps are there to keep you hooked. It's you who decides when you want to get out of it.
I'm guessing, and I want your opinion on this. Do you also think that the apps give you more options, which can be a good and bad thing? But one of the good things is that people stuck in maybe shitty relationships now realize, oh, I don't have to. This isn't the only person for me. There, there are people out there who will treat me well. People who know how to communicate. People who have empathy. People who are on my same emotional intelligence level. Like so, the options can be a positive thing as well, right?
Yeah, and we also have a very um, privileged way of thinking when we are talking about apps, right? Like, among the three of us, I don't think we have special conditions. Like, for example, if you have Tourette syndrome, right? And what if somebody else doesn't have that level of acceptance for you in face to face or real life, but then you find an app which is made for people who have the Tourette syndrome, and you're looking for other people who either accept it or don't make it a big deal out of it, and they find compatible partners. So we need to start thinking in terms of, yes, it's good for what you just said, Adam. That is, it gives us options to like get out of those relationships that are toxic because now we have options. But we also need to look at people who were marginalized before, who just don't have the option of walking down the street and just assume that this person might be into me. They might need that filter of an app to understand if this person is into you or not. And I learned that being an international student in the US, where my chances of meeting a compatible partner just walking into a bar was slim to none because I had to acclimatize myself a lot. So dating apps became my doorway into acculturating myself with the dating scene in the United States. And you can use the same analogy for LGBTQIA plus individuals, for individuals who are neurodivergent, and so on and so forth.
That's a really good point. I remember I did a TikTok about basically someone doesn't put any profile at all, like they don't even fill out the basic bio. That I'm not interested in that because I want someone with a bio, so I have something to talk about. And someone accused me of being ableist with that because I was not paying attention to the fact that there are people out there who maybe don't have even the skills to post a bio because they don't know how to talk about themselves, the anxiety that comes with it and everything, and that I should maybe give it more of a chance. And that was something I had never considered before.
Yeah. Yeah, online dating is not that bad. It's good. I
Yeah.
support.
Have you seen any changes to online dating based on the pandemic or changes to hookup culture because of the pandemic?
This is interesting. I didn't study it in a statistical way, but I do teach at a university which is based in New York City, and I always bring my research back to students, and I tell them that, yo, this is what I found out. What do you think? Like, are these like other kids throwing me off? And so I told them about this. Preference of meeting people face to face or through class settings versus Tinder or dating apps. And they're like, Aditi, I don't know. Like, we have forgotten how to talk face to face. Like, there is this clear lack of, I want to meet the profile before the person. Like, I don't know how to strike up a conversation with people anymore. Now, again, these are 3 kids in my class. Now, comparing that to a 25,000 student survey, I don't know. But that's the only thing I can go off of because what I have realized from students post pandemic is this over reliance on technology that is on hyperdrive right now. So, yeah, if you look at the use of online dating, the need of socialization, the need for company must have spiked that use among college kids, I would imagine.
I mean, I know I've forgotten how to socialize as well, so I can understand that.
Yeah.
All right, I want to pivot a little bit to everyone's favorite topic, sex, and I have some specifics. It's kind of maybe a complex question, but I just want to kind of ask all of it, and then you can kind of pick and choose. Okay, so what I'd like you to talk about is one, how many students maybe are experimenting with their sexuality, like that you found that younger generations are now more open to the idea of their orientation being more fluid. Um, which then brings me to the part: how do you define sex? Is it something other than penetrative sex? How do these students define sex? And then my third part, so this is, but you can answer however you want, is what do you think personally, or what do you think academically about the construct of virginity and how it applies to like the idea of what sex actually is and what the definition of sex is?
I'll start with virginity. And again, this is not something out of the 3 questions that you asked me. I didn't study 2 of them. I didn't study the use of online dating apps as a way to experiment with their sexuality. I did study what they do consider and do not consider sex or a hookup. But the third one, I'll start with that about virginity, because for so long we have thought about virginity as such a big deal, and we have heard stories. At least I grew up with stories from my mom. Like she told me, like, oh, here's the situation. Since we are on TikTok, right? I There's this stitch that I heard today where this woman said, "Tell me an unethical parenting hack that you used on your children," and it totally worked. And this mom said, "I told my daughter that she is highly allergic to drugs. So when her friends started experimenting with drugs in high school, she's like, Mom, I didn't delve into that because, right? Like, I'm very allergic," and it totally worked. So my mom used a similar sort of strategy on me, now that I think about it, to like just dissuade me from like anything sexual. And I thought that it came from a sense of being a conservative parent, but now that I think about it, I think it's from the point of safety. where right now, if you look at the data, the number of sexual partners that men have and women have, there is no difference. At least in my data set, that's what shows the number of sexual partners or hookup partners that men had versus females had. It's the same. There is no difference. The difference comes in condom use. The difference comes in the way in which women talk about sex. So when men talk about their encounters, because I asked them a question, how did you hook up? Because I was like, what is that? Tell me, what is a hookup? Because I just don't understand. They go to the library to hook up, they go to their dorms to hook up. I'm like, are you just having rabid sex all around, or are you studying? What is happening? So I wanted to know that. And they gave me a detailed account of how they hooked up. And what I saw in terms of men talking about sex, they used words like, oh yeah, I got head. We fucked. We had awesome sex. And women would say things like, like one thing led to another, and then it happened. And you know how it goes. So they would keep it super vague, or they would just say, we hooked up. So the social price that women have to pay, even in this culture of WAP and Megan the Stallion, is still pretty high. So when you're thinking about virginity, yeah, it's not this pious thing, but we also need to be mindful about women's safety. That is, yeah, there is sexual empowerment happening, but are we teaching women how to ask for consent, how to receive consent? And are we doing the same for men as well? So the social stigma of like you not being a virgin has gone away, but for us to like take the jump and just ask women or young women, impressionable women, to just like do it without telling them the price they might have to pay for nothing that they did, but for a wrongful assumption that their partner may have had, and now they have had to face the brunt. And then, like, people who are virtue seekers, they will come back and say, told you to be a virgin, then you wouldn't have to do or go through this maybe sexual assault situation or a sexual misconduct situation if you just stayed a virgin.
That's interesting. I'm a big believer that virginity doesn't exist. That it's a something that is a patriarchal concept that basically is like when a man puts his penis inside you, it gives you magical powers and you become a woman. That's like it's this idea that men have this power over women, and with more people experimenting with each other and being more people who are either non-binary or presenting in something other than their assigned gender, that sex can mean a lot to different people. And so someone might say, oh yeah, like it's like the whole old joke about Catholic schoolgirls being a virgin because they only did anal. Which is an old thing, like, oh yeah, I'm a virgin. Yeah, I mean I let 14
Have
guys
you heard of this thing called soaking?
yes.
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 Oh my God.
Mind blown.
Yeah.
Like,
So,
exactly.
but I think if we got rid of the concept of virginity, so it wasn't something people worried about, and just an
Yeah.
experienced, communication and being safe, and of course consent. I do have a question though. You said something about consent, about trying to help teach women to how to. What did you say? How to?
Ask for consent and how to receive that consent
Can you expand on that a little bit? Because I'm not really sure I understand that.
yeah. So I'm in the process of reading this book called Not That Bad. It's by Roxanne Gray, I want to say. And she's talking about, this idea of consent and how we think it is a certain thing. But when you actually perform the sexual act, it becomes very different. So I'll just give you an example. I went to see this play the other day in New York City. And these two young women are having a dialogue among themselves. And this girl, she's clearly conflicted, and she's venting to her friend, and she said, I had sex with this guy. Yeah, like I had given him consent, but then like I wanted to have sex with him, and I said yes to that. But then, like 2 or 3 minutes into the act, he's like, I really want to have sex with you without a condom. Like, is that okay? So to extrapolate that initial yes to incremental yeses, and for women to be able to say no. And even when under pressure they do perform that act, to go back and then report it as that was non-consensual. It truly and factually qualifies as an assault. for us to come to that position, to unlearn some of the things that we'll know about consent, and embrace these rather difficult concepts, that's something we really need to parallel this conversation about female sexual empowerment. Now, does that mean, oh, like all the onus is on victims? Not really. Let's teach it to both parties. And now that we're talking about sexual orientation and people experimenting with their gender and identity expression, etc., let's teach everybody the idea of consent, not just one gender over the other.
Do you think Gen Z is more willing to learn than other generations before them when it comes to consent and just sex in general?
I think so. Because, like, think about the Me Too movement and how so many women came up and reported what they thought was unreportable before. So the climate is very conducive for those conversations. And the only thing that I worry about is this polarization and cancel culturing, which, if somebody has done something wrong, for them to have that safe space to say, yo, I fucked up, and to come back and bounce back and be a better person. Do we have room for that, in this climate, even with its accepting nature? I don't know. I hope we do. I hope we get to a position where we can fuck up and learn, so that we don't fuck it up more in the future.
I've found that my theory on this is that it's the pendulum. It's a pendulum. It's swinging, and the pendulum has been on behalf of men for so long that it's going to swing a little bit aggressively to the other side for a little while, which is okay. There's going to be some innocent people that get caught up in that, but there's so many innocent people were caught up on the other side for so many decades
Oh, yeah.
that it's okay. You're going to lose but then it'll eventually balance out. I do. It's and I don't want to harp on this for long, but I just the consent thing to me is also something that I feel like men or whoever the initiator is need, like, I feel like they're the ones who should be educated heavier on
Absolutely.
asking for consent and asking it for it to be, because what is it, fries, free, it has to be freely given, it has to be what's the R, I always forget
Constant check-ins. I
yeah, yeah,
don't
yeah.
know
It
an
has to be
analogy
consistent.
you're
Like you
looking for.
consistent. Like it has to be continuous. It's for each individual act. It has to be informed. It has to be enthusiastic, or in the absence of enthusiastic, it has to be at least to the degree that you know that they're into it. So we always say on Dating Kind of Sucks that unless it's a fuck yes, it's a no.
Yeah, that is true.
But like in the instance of your story that you were saying about the woman, that he wanted to take off his condom,
Yeah.
that definitely is something where he has to ask for consent, and she has the right there to say no, and that if he does that without asking, that
Hmm.
is rape, and that is something that I feel like men need to understand. Women need to be empowered enough to know to talk about it, but I feel like the onus is, in my opinion, is 100% on the initiator of the sexual act in that
Hmm.
case.
Hmm. Yeah, it goes back to men, in since we're talking about heterosexual relationships. um, Research has shown, like, there's this book I read called Predictably Irrational, where the he's a behavioral psychologist or economist, Dan Ariely. Fantastic book. So he was talking about, what affects men's motivation to wear a condom. And he did, I don't know how this research study got through the Institutional Review Board, but it did, and I'm glad it did, because it's highly controversial if I could tell you the setup, where he recruited these college men and he made them masturbate to porn. And then, just when they were going to come, there was a pop up in their screen saying, "You need to wear a condom." And these men, a majority of them didn't, even when earlier they said that it's important to wear a condom. So, emotionality, it just goes, I mean, rationality goes out the door when people are heated up. Like, think about a cisgender man being in his absolute prime heat, being that vulnerable, and the woman saying, "Nope, no condom, no sex." Like, how much can you empower a woman at this point? So we really need to change the conversation of like, oh, women need to be empowered. Yes, we need to be empowered. Absolutely. I don't doubt that one bit. At the same time, we should also teach our cisgender men how to take a no, and increase that thick skin of not having such rejection sensitivity.
That
That
yeah.
literally just clap at that. Yeah, exactly. We should be educating men a lot more than we already are.
You
Yeah,
know.
it's the idea that men can't take rejection is it's so true. They're so terrible taking rejection, and I think there's that whole saying. I think it's Margaret Atwood that's like I'm gonna butcher the actual quote, but it's something along the lines that men's biggest fear is being rejected, and women's biggest fear is being murdered. It's like something along those
Yeah.
lines. And that's something that men really don't understand sometimes, and they will go to any lengths to try to make excuse for it. And like the concept of blue balls, which is a bullshit concept that that men will try to use to coerce a woman who's already said no into trying to continue with sex. And so I agree, we need to teach men how to accept rejection, how to know
Yeah.
it's not the end of the world, and that they'll survive as well.
Yeah. One of the study results that really caught my attention, and I really don't want to bash men. I love men. I don't want to come off as that. I'm like, man, do better.
But tell the truth, if it's the truth, it's the
Yeah,
truth.
I bet. Yeah, no, men are. Yeah, no, don't worry. Yeah, we just did an episode a couple weeks ago called Do Men Even Like Women?" And it was
Oh
all,
yeah.
and we studied whether or not men even like women. So it's okay. We're aware of male privilege, systemic misogyny. Those all exist, and that does affect the world.
Yeah. Um, One of the results like that really caught my attention when I really started to think that, oh, look at men doing a good job, and what's up with women? When I asked students in the last hookup, did you use protection or some sort of protection, a condom or contraceptive? Results show that 64% men said that they used it compared to 52% women. Significant difference. And I'm like, look at men being good. Like, I mean, yes, this is great. And look at women being like flagrantly irresponsible. And then I thought about it, like, wait a minute, this is probably the first time they're hooking up with a stranger. Um, did they even have that room to negotiate? Could they have asserted themselves, or were they victims of stealthing? Like, anything could have happened, right? So this idea of female sexual agency, a lot of factors working together, right? Like men being able to increase their rejection sensitivity, partners being okay with female sexual agency, to not look at this just because this woman wants to be slapped during sex and for you to call her daddy, for her to not have that assertiveness to say no, like we are going to use a condom, to have those two things coexist, and have that mental schema. Those are the type of you know psychological changes that we're talking about. And is it better off through a dating app versus school? No, like it's the same. It's just a human principle that we should learn. So yeah, those are the 2 cents that I saw a result, and in the first blush it seemed one way, but then when you think about it, you get to see other underlying forces that are at play.
Right, right. That makes me curious too. When you said you asked women, and that's why I think I asked about, are people exploring sexual orientation more too? Because were those women having penetrative sex, and was your question related to,
Yeah.
did they use a condom if they had penetrative sex? So if there was a P and V, then that was the question.
Yeah, so
Okay.
the 54%, 64% to 52% was only through like heterosexual coupling. So I didn't look at this statistic came from heterosexual coupling. For homosexual or bisexual coupling, it was not that significant. So this one was purely heterosexual.
Okay. Did you find that men, with men who were with other men, did they use condom use? Was their condom use as high, or did you?
No, condom use was not that high. Also, sexting increased the chances of penetrative sex by a lot. Like 193 people, students who were sexting were 193% more likely to go for penetrative sex versus just making out. So I didn't answer the question that you asked me, but like sexting plays a role, and gay men are far more likely to engage in unprotected sex than straight men.
And I want to go back to your book a little bit too, and just cover like some of your other findings, or just kind of explain your book and promote it on our show a little bit.
Did you?
If there's anything about your book that you'd like to share about, like,
I feel like maybe we're getting off topic, but yeah.
Yeah,
like,
'cause we have- yeah.
No, I
okay,
love these
good.
conversations.
Okay, good.
I love these conversations. Please, we this is just a gateway. Hookups are a gateway drug to this bigger conversation we are having, and I'm here for it. I love it.
Yeah, I don't want to forget about your book, because that's like another great thing that you've done and researched and everything. So tell us a little bit about how you came to write the book, and then everything, any fun facts in the book or anything.
It's just me and my morbid curiosity about Gen Z. Let's just be honest. Like I was thinking, how can I be the most how can I be the most nosy in the most ethical way? And I'm like, this is a good idea. Let's just launch a whole ass research project about this, and then like know what my students are doing. But I honestly wanted to understand our hookups like this hedonistic, like glamorized, alcohol-filled fuckfest that the media wants us to believe. Because let's be honest, I know my students, most of them are just jaded. Like they are just tired. All they want to do is take a nap and complain about that one deadbeat other student in their project who's not doing any work and not responding to their texts. I'm like, what is happening? Because all the other accounts that I have seen so far, read in books, they seem to be extremely white, they seem to be extremely straight, and they seem to be extremely conventional. So for example, there is this one book that I read, and the researcher said there are 5 steps to hooking up. First, you pre-game, that is, get drunk with your girlfriends. Then you go to a frat party and you grind on a guy, and then you look at your friends because you're facing like the guy is facing your butt, so you can't really see the guy. So you ask your
Get the
friends.
smasher pass of
Yeah,
just,
that's
if
a,
you
yeah,
want,
that's a smasher pass. And then apparently, like, see, you know better terminology than I do. I'm like, do you like or dislike? Like, okay, smasher pass. And then their friends in their drunken haze say, oh yeah, this guy is an acceptable fuck. So they turn around, and then you make out, and then you probably go to this guy's room. And then the next day you wake up and you establish meaninglessness, where you either ghost them or you never talk to them, even though you might have had feelings for them. And I'm like, first of all, I teach at Pace University in New York. There is no concept of fraternity houses. And don't tell me that my students are not hooking up. That cannot be right. So I'm like, what is happening? What's happening in the non-Greek life? What's happening in the non-straight life? And that's the most interesting thing that I found out, that hookups are regular. They are just so regular. They're a part and parcel of their lives, and it's very chill. And I can read out one of the excerpts where I asked the student, like, explain to me how you hooked up. So this kid said, I texted my friend and told her that I want to see the girl. Then she told her that that girl agreed. I was so nervous before I met her. Then I went to her dorm and took her out for coffee. Then we went over to my room and we chilled till midnight. And like,
so
probably
was chilled fucked?
just chill. Like they were Netflix and chilling. I mean, Sarah,
Okay.
to say.
Yeah, I don't know if people still say Netflix and chill, but yeah, then we just chilled.
They were
To
just
be cool
chilling.
about it. Just be
We're
cool.
very-
Just chilled.
Yeah, I'm just chilling, and then the use of Snapchats was so dominant. So this one kid, and I'm just gonna read it out another excerpt. This guy said, or girl, I don't know who they are. We had been texting and Snapchatting every day. We set up a date a few days later in the week. We ended up meeting at a bar before the setup date and talked for a while with each other and friends. We decided to go to my place, where we proceeded in awesome sex. So It's just that, it's just you want to be friends with this person, and you're taking it easy. You're just probably like, feeling each other figuratively and the other way, and see where it goes. And it's not always alcohol soaked. That only happens when you're hooking up with somebody at a party. As a matter of fact, when you hook up with somebody over dating apps, alcohol consumption is at an all-time low. Like, you don't drink because you've already set the ground about what you want to do during the date. So there is no gray area. You don't really need to be inebriated to bring out your promiscuous self, if you may.
I think it's funny that like a lot of papers or just people are reporting on younger generations having less sex, but then you're saying it's just part of their lives. It's on a random Tuesday and then next week on a Saturday and whatever. So are you seeing through your research that that's just not as accurate, or maybe that's just the college scope of younger kids are actually having more consistent sex?
But they're not having sex, they're making out more than having sex. So that could be it. So we need to move away from like, are they having sex versus are they doing something sexual with each other? So there's some sexual something happening. It may not be full blown sex, but it may be some sort of sexual communication where they're thirst trapping each other, maybe, or they're just making out. And the college population does not consider oral sex as sex, so maybe they're just doing that. And as long as they're not having traditionally defined penetrative sex, then they don't consider that as having sex. So that could have brought the numbers down.
That's a good point, because I didn't consider oral sex.
I was just about to bring this up that
Yeah.
we've actually done whole episodes on this where Sarah, when she'd go before, now she's in a relationship, but when she would date, it would always be like she would not have sex like until like she was in a
But I would
relationship
suck
with
his
someone.
dick, but I
But
would always suck his
she
dick. Yeah.
sucked every dick, and so it was all. And so, but at one point I was like, "Do you think that's not as intimate? Like that, you were doing an equally intimate act with the person, and it should
Yeah.
be. Why is having sex with them any different? Like that's less intimate in some ways than
Yeah.
getting down and with their unwashed ass. Like I just feel
Listen,
like
I'll do you one better, because the other day my student blew my mind. They're like, like we don't make eye contact because eye contact is way too intimate. Like, forget about sucking a dick. Making eye contact is almost getting married nowadays, apparently. So who
Where do
knows?
you look? Where do you look?
Anyway, where you're performing the act,
I
maybe.
guess, yeah. But I feel like looking at them makes it more sexual and fun, though. I don't know. That's
Yeah, it's way too much intimacy at that point. Maybe you can scroll through TikTok as you're blowing them. Who knows?
right, or you set up the camera for your OnlyFans, which is going to be my next question. Is how OnlyFans ties into this, because I know that you do you find that they hook up and they film it and they post it online, or how has OnlyFans come into the conversation with your book?
Yeah, I didn't ask them about their OnlyFans use. I asked them about their sugar dating use, and I extrapolated it to talk about the bigger area that is college students' online sex work. So 14% of college students have sugar dated or are sugar dating at this point. And 19% of those kids say that, oh, I just did it as a joke because my friend said that. But that's how sex work starts. That is, one of your friends did it, so like they got you into it, so now you're in it. I don't know when that joke turns into something serious, where you just jokingly like send a picture of your feet, and then the next thing you know, you're sexting with your sugar daddy. But one of the yes,
Sarah, start
which
off.
I also take photos of my feet and post on OnlyFans too. That wasn't how I originally started, but yeah, I guess I kind of fall into that category.
wait, but tell me more about this because I'm curious. How is that going?
I mean, it's a side business. I don't make a whole lot of money on the side, but I'll post a couple of photos every month on OnlyFans, and just I have an Instagram account where I'll post photos of my feet too, and it's just kind of like, okay, I'll snap a pic. Not a big
She
deal.
even had a whole podcast that she's kind of let lapse called Millennial Toes, where that she talked
Wait,
about foot fetish and OnlyFans and stuff like that, and how to just basically maximize your work on there.
then you tell me now, Sarah. You have more to educate me than me to tell you
I don't know.
about
At least
OnlyFans.
At least for feet, like it's just casual. It's just like for at least the OnlyFans platform, it's just like posting on social media. You take a couple
Yeah.
pics, you get some reactions, people DM you, and then you get paid. It's just
Yeah.
like, okay,
Yeah,
whatever.
I have an OnlyFans too. I've made like $150 on
Am
it.
I missing out?
Yeah, I think everybody should have one. I support this completely.
Oh, well, I mean, a good thing is the CEO of OnlyFans is an Indian woman right now, so like I can possibly play that card to my parents and be like, listen, I mean, she is living the American immigrant dream. Like, do you not want me to be a part of that? But no, it starts off as a joke, right? And what I have seen through my research is again, they're not having sex with their sugar daddies, they're doing something sexual. So either sexting them or going to parties with them, being an escort of sorts. And this idea that sugar dating websites like Seeking Arrangement, they always say that, I mean, ours is like a FAFSA program. That is, you have all this debt, and what do you do? How do you get out of this debt? Do you work at a barista as a barista for 20 plus hours and get paid like $15 or $7.50, whatever the minimum wage is now? Or you can make a cool $500 by going with somebody who wants to pay you big money. What do you do? So they make it sound like students are using all this money that they are earning from OnlyFans or sugar dating toward their loans. And that's not the case. 18% of students out of 100% of students across the United States pay for their loans by themselves. They either are looking at their parents or they're looking at the government or they're looking at the bank. The way that these kids are spending the money that they're earning from sugar dating is clearly discretionary or purely discretionary income. So, like getting drinks, living life, stunting on Instagram with their Balenciagas and their Gucci's.
I can't imagine saving that money. You know, it's the being young and excited and making money this new way. Why would I want to put it towards loans?
Yeah.
The people I know who do that, because I have a large group of friends who have sugar daddies and stuff like that, is they'll do that for their discretionary expenses, and their other work or whatever else they do to bring in money will go towards what they really want. So like they're saving for a house, and so if they want to go out to dinner, if they want to take a trip, they talk to their sugar daddy about that so they can have fun without dipping into their nest egg that they're building on their own. And that's, I mean, it's savvy. It's, I think it's smart as hell to do that.
It's just good financial sense.
Yeah, it absolutely is.
You have your 401k, you have your Roth IRA, and then you have your sugar income.
Yeah, yep, yeah. That's great. I have a friend who basically she has a gas card. It's her
Oh,
sugar daddy pays it, and she goes out to dinner with him once a month, and he pays her gas bill, and so she puts out all of her gas goes on that card. He
yeah.
gets the miles off of it, and then he also so like it works for him, and he gets to have dinner with someone who's pretty and engaging and have fun with her once a month basically, and nothing sexual happens in any way whatsoever.
Mm-hmm. Listen, the white man is getting paid $1 to 76 cents for women. This is our way of making the ground a little equal, if you may. So I don't see any harm in this. It's all good.
I agree. Yeah, no, yeah,
Agreed. Yeah.
we support sex work very very heavily here.
Yeah.
So, all right. Well, I want to kind of start wrapping up, but is there anything else about the book that you want to share that maybe is important that we haven't talked about, we haven't touched on, or anything else people might find be surprised by or anything?
Just the idea that hookups are not frivolous, projecting into the future. Hookups will become an important part of a relationship. Because what I did was when I was looking at hookup literature, I took it way back. I took it to like the 1930s because a lot of these, Vogue articles that come up, they say hookups are the apocalypse to dating. Like, they're destroying dating. And I'm like, wait a minute, like, but when did dating become the golden chalice of commitment? Has it always been that way? And when I looked at previous research, when dating was up and about or coming up in American college campuses, it was slandered the same way with the same language that hookups are being tarnished right now, where this one professor, Willard Waller. He says, back in my day, a kiss meant something. Going out meant something. Nowadays, with these like fraternity parties and everything, they were like apparently soirees back then, necking and everything. What the heck is necking? I don't know. But they like, what is the moral destruction that's happening of kids in the 1930s? And how is that any different than what's happening right now? So history has a weird way of replaying itself, and we foolishly think that this is something new that's happening when it's really not. It's just refurbished and packaged in a new outfit. It's the same. We always have this moral panic that whenever we are engaging in something that does not have a definitive end to it, that somehow it is an indication of moral decay. And that's not the case. Hookups are going to be a part of the trajectory that is relationships. Before it was you see this person, you get married, and then you're like, you date this person, then you get married, and now it's you're hooking up with this person, kind of hanging out with them, then you're dating, and then you're getting married.
Or not, if you decide not to get
Or
married.
not,
That's okay
or
too.
not.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, it's a goalpost now. Yeah.
That's great. And so the book is called The Current Collegiate Hookup Culture: Dating Apps, Hookup Scripts, and Sexual Outcomes. And it is available, looks like Amazon and all types of everywhere else you can find books, right?
Yeah.
You can find it at through your website at draditipaul.com as well.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the pitch, though. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
We
we're gonna
love
try
a
to.
shameless plug.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yes, do it.
Absolutely. This is great.
Pitch your OnlyFans handles too. I'll follow you.
We'll put it in the show notes. Yeah.
Yeah, it is in our show. It was in our show
It
notes.
is, yeah.
When we were active in there, it was in our show notes too, because it was just, why not? I have a large gay following, and so they just love the fact that occasionally I would just post naked pictures on an OnlyFans, and so yeah, it just worked out great. And
And I followed him.
Yeah. I don't know what you have learned from what I have said, but I have learned so much about your socials. I need to make an account today. That's it. That's what's gonna happen.
Shoot your shot. You never know what can happen on OnlyFans.
That's right. Well, what we do, the way we always end every episode, is we call it a Spitfire, and it's just going to be 5 quick questions that are just very random, and you're just going to answer as quickly as you can off the top of your head. All right. So
Great.
this is it. So these are all just very bizarre questions, and so here we go. Number
Not
one,
professional at
not
all.
professional questions in any way. Okay. Okay.
Let me take a deep breath.
Yes.
Go for it.
Number 1, fuck, marry, kill: Kumail Nanjiani, Benedict Cumberbatch, and The Rock.
Can I fuck all 3 of them? Who would want to kill any of them?
Right. That's why you got to choose. That's what makes this hard.
Well, I would keep The Rock for the fuck. The marriage for Benedict Cumberbatch. He's got that Murray Hill, finance bro look toward him, and I'd probably kill Kumail Nanjiani.
Oh, poor Kumail. All
Next
right.
question. Would you rather swim with sharks or go to a Trump rally?
Go to a Trump rally. I mean, who doesn't like a good comedy show?
I mean, that's just true. But it's more dangerous. I feel like it could be more dangerous than swimming with sharks.
I'll come back as a QAnon member.
Yeah. All right. Number 3. What's your guilty TV pleasure?
Ooh. Love is Blind for now. I am morbidly addicted to the point that I'm seeing reruns. Like, I need to go to therapy. This is not right. This is not acceptable behavior at all. But
Are
yeah.
you watching Brazil and like the other countries as well?
I don't care about it that much. I will I will watch it, but I will not read it. Like no. And I try to like not listen to the dubbed version because then you lose out on the non-verbals, but I am not that passionate to like sit down and read. Love is Blind. No.
All right. If you could consensually bang any person, real or fictional, who would it be?
Oh my God.
And don't say The Rock. No.
Bang The Rock, and so it becomes a pebble. Who would I fuck? Oh my gosh! You just like thrown me into a Las Vegas buffet and asked me to pick an item to have for the rest of my. How does a woman even pick? Oh my gosh!
It could be a cartoon character too. Doesn't have to be a real person.
Like TikTok, Disney's Smash or Pass.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, who do I oh my gosh, I don't know, such pressure.
It's
Oh my
funny
God,
how
such
this question is so
pressure.
hard for people. You're not the only one who has difficulty with this.
Who would have, oh my gosh. Listen, I just have to give it to one of my childhood heroes. His name is Shah Rukh Khan. He is a big star in Bollywood, and he is, I would totally get on with him. Like 100%. 100%.
That's
Without
great.
him. Yeah.
All right, for number 5, this is just so you're gonna say the first thing that comes off top of your head. All right, finish the sentence. Sex is.
Great.
There we go. Fantastic.
Wonderful.
That's a great answer. All right, thank you so much for joining us, and you can find more about Dr. Aditi Paul at draditipaul.com.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure.
It's
We
been great.
enjoyed it.
Whether you're married or single or poly or ace, or hanging out with swingers back at your place, listen to us as we get no luck on Tinder and Bumble and plenty of yuck, trying and having no luck, because we all know dating kinda sucks. Sarah and Adam are two of a kind. He says stupid shit and she doesn't mind. They're not doing this show to make any buck. Life as a chicken whose feathers they pluck. Why does it work? Well, here is the crux. They both know dating kinda sucks. Dating kinda sucks.